Hello and welcome to the latest Leadership Insight interview today. My name is Kate Pearce. I've been asked by Business South to speak to the business leaders across our region, across the Central South region. And today I'm joined by Mike Wilson. He is the managing partner at Blake Morgan, and they are a full service law firm with offices across the UK, over 100 partners and 700 staff. In this series, we've explored with leaders the main challenges they've faced through the pandemic. And Mike, I wonder if you can sort of take me through how the pandemic has been for you and for Blake Morgan. Obviously, you employ hundreds of people, and they would have been looking to you for leadership. How was that?
Okay, well, first off, thank you, Kate, for inviting me along to contribute to this discussion. I welcome that. We've worked with Business South for many, many years, as you know, indeed one of the founder members. So thank you for having me along. So let me begin. The challenges that I think we faced at the start of the pandemic was, let me go back. One of surprise is what I would say. We knew or saw, as we all did, that things were sort of happening in the world beyond the West, if I could put it, and then suddenly it was upon us. And I remember very clearly that day when Boris Johnson stood up and said, everybody must work from home. And we had something like 48 hours notice of that. And my immediate thought there was, how on earth are we going to manage that? For two key reasons. One was clearly that we're a busy law firm, like many other law firms are in the country. And secondly, the IT systems, would they hold up? And then thirdly, of course, our clients and our people, how are they going to cope with all that? So there was a lot suddenly falling in upon us. How did we weather it? Well, we'll come on to that a bit later on, but I think it's been good for us on many, many different ways on different levels, but we did weather it. And like many of us, we're coming out of it, and the future is looking bright, if not orange.
That's a blast from the past, isn't it?
It is.
With the other leaders that I've spoken to, communication has seemed like the key thing, really. So that would be with your, the people who are working with you, but also with your clients. Has that been the case for you?
I think within any professional law firm, and probably beyond law firms, businesses generally, is that communication is the one thing that is going to bring people together. And we all know that when we're sort of locked away at home and not able to be engaging with each other, that it becomes ever more important. So I was fortunate with the team around me that we sort of got onto that very quickly and very, very swiftly buffed up and improved our comms beyond the measure we hadn't got to before. And that manifested itself a number of ways. Constant communication, if you like, short bursts, not too long. Secondly, at least one weekly update, which is still continuing from myself, and then others coming in as well, and the partners standing up, and the business group leaders and leaders behind them, just to keep that constant flow. You can never, I think the danger of over communication is never there. Under communication is always present.
And personally for you, what sort of reserves and experience did you draw on? I mean, obviously it was a completely unknown set of circumstances for everybody, but were there sort of things from your past that you could draw on?
Yeah, well, to be fair, a number of people in this firm asked me how I coped, and it never, for me, came to a situation of being coping. And I can say that for a number of reasons. The very first reason is that the partners in this business, and indeed the senior stakeholders beyond, were immediately supportive in a way I could not have believed. And so that gives you confidence. And we all need that boost, don't we, in difficult times, to be boosted with confidence. So I had that confidence. Secondly, none of us have been through a pandemic before, but we have had recessions before. And whilst I didn't have the honour of leading a business as I do now, I have been in law firms in the past when recessions have hit, notably the 2008 recession, and I think I may have just started out on one before that too. And you see what happens. And I think the one key thing I'd say to anybody in this situation is to keep your calm, keep your head, and know that you get through it. And where you see problems, confront them, and don't bury them, and be open with people.
And is it also the case to not leap in at everything that's happening? You sort of sit back a little bit and think, golly, how can I address this?
Answer, there are degrees of urgency, but we had, again, because I have a great team behind me, a business continuity plan, which we could immediately plug into, like lots of other businesses. And yeah, there is that time to reflect and not to react in a knee-jerk fashion. And I have lots of calm, measured people who think that way. And even I'm about to lose it, they'll soon rein me in, so we're fine.
I can't imagine you losing it, I'm sure. And you talked about, the challenge of people suddenly working from home, working remotely. Looking ahead now, are people going to be still working from home at points? Are you introducing a sort of a hybrid model, or how is that going to work for you?
The pandemic has caused lots and lots of personal pain and tragedy, but it's also enabled us to accelerate plans that were already in the pipeline. So we do not plan to return to the office in the same way as perhaps the office worked before, and we're no different from many other organisations like that. You may know that I regularly or quarterly or bi-monthly meet with some of the managing partners on the South Coast. And that in itself has been a great thing, certainly for me. And if they will watch this, I hope they will agree that a good dozen or 10 of us have got together from the local law firms to chatter and discuss where their issues are. And that's been very helpful for all of us, I hope. And that, again, I've learned from them, none of us are doing anything different in terms of just looking at how we will do what we call smart working. I thought that was something we invented, but all my friends out there have done the same thing. We all call it smart working, but that's the hybrid model we'll be getting to.
And you personally, how have you coped with working from home? Have you enjoyed that? Or has that been a good process for you?
No, I haven't enjoyed working from home, if I'm candid. I can work from home, and I have worked from home, but I haven't particularly enjoyed it. I like to be out and about, seeing clients, seeing people in the various businesses, and I think there's that need for that glue and that cohesion to keep people together. And I don't say I do that exclusively, but it has been difficult. It was easy in the first few weeks, but who would have thought it would have dragged on for beyond a year? But no, I haven't found it entirely easy, and I'm sure that a lot of my colleagues, and I would say perhaps a more junior next generation of people coming up through this firm, would have found it even harder, because at least I have the benefit of having been able to work from home. Some don't have those things, and so it's difficult for them.
And as we start to look ahead now and frame the recovery, what are there things that you would like to see that not going back to how things were before? What are the changes that you think we should make now?
It's about how we can leverage off what has happened in this year and turn it to the advantage. So my role, I see, is obviously making sure we get the right return for stakeholders, right return in terms of looking after our clients, because we don't look after our clients, nothing follows. But what runs alongside that, very importantly, is our employees and our people and our stakeholders. And that bit is where we see the key focuses. So the smart working policy is one thing, able to work from home where you can, coming to the business where you can, making sure that we have got the welfare of people right. And that's constantly evolving. And look at all this stress that's come out and the mental health and well-being issues as a result of us all being locked at home. It was an appeal in the early days, it's not now. And so making sure we look after our people is the most important thing at this moment in time, along with our clients.
And as you look in our region. I know that you've spoken about the recovery and Portsmouth. I think obviously your firm has sort of strong links with that city. So I wonder if first of all we can talk about how you see things progressing for Portsmouth, and then look at the sort of wider central south region as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, part of the firm, although I wasn't around at that time, of course, was what we call the old Blake Blackthorn brand, and of course it came out of Portsmouth back in the day, over 150 years ago. Of course, since then the firm's gone through a lot of growth plans, and we're now national rather than just contained to Portsmouth. But there's a lot of heart there and on the south coast. So, I mean, whilst we took a very difficult decision over the 3-year plan to close our physical presence in Portsmouth last year, what we have done is consolidated to here on the south coast in New King's Court on the Chandlersport Business Park. And from there, it's been encouraging because we have a number of partners who are specifically still engaged in that Portsmouth market. We're still very linked closely with the Portsmouth with the Portsmouth area, and of course we've expanded our interest by getting a lot of people into the local CBI as well in terms of what we do there. We have people who live and work in Portsmouth, so that's still coming through in terms of what we do, and of course our clients still come to us from Portsmouth. Life's moved on, hasn't it, Kate? We don't need that physical presence anymore. A lot of it's done, as I'm doing with you now, through a screen. And less so with the physical presence of the buildings.
And I know that with Business South, you've been very, very much behind the whole Central South process that they're trying to roll out as you know, to promote the region, all that's good about what is here, what we have on offer, and obviously that geography sort of fits very much with the geography for your firm as well. I just wonder what your thoughts are looking ahead for the Central South.
Central South is very much where our heart is. Of course, we have our largest office is on the south coast. We have now currently just over 260 people on the south coast. We have 29 partners on the south coast. Where we're looking really in terms of our messaging is we're looking at this project under the reimagining of tomorrow's city centres, which is being led by Dan Curtis and Oliver Soughton. That's the Southern Policy Centre, which I think we've published quite heavily through yourselves. We have the Shaping Portsmouth network events that we're dealing with, which is all about the digital conferencing and what we're actually doing there, again led by Dan Curtis. And then we have, of course, as I said, the CBI initiatives, where we've got a number of our people strengthening our connections across the southern region here. Jill Bainbridge is on the CBI's International Trade Advisory Links. We have Susie Dryden, Kathy Bryant and Holly Jones also involved in the CBI. And then, of course, the other networking events we do with yourselves. So a strong concentrated work going on through there as we're intending to do. And that's where we focus our attention.
And you're going to be joining Business South, going to MIPIM as well.
Always MIPIM, always MIPIM. Business, we have a fairly strong profile of people going from South Coast and beyond, actually, to MIPIM later. Forgive me, is it this year or next year? Time's moved on so swiftly, but
it will be in March. In
March, yes, because I know that there's a strong delegation going out before, but MIPIM very much supportive of.
And do you think it's still important for us to be promoting ourselves on that sort of global stage? I mean, I guess it's more so than ever, isn't it?
I think, yes, more so than ever. Strategically, we have to have an international offering. We do. If you look at the changes going through even our local regional centre with the free ports and the energies going in there, absolutely. And it's absolutely to get our message out there. We need that inward investment in and out, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And hopefully, this country and this area has lots of opportunity. And I think the international aspect would be ignored at our peril.
And at the start there, you talked about the future being very bright and sort of coming through. What in particular is looking particularly good do you think?
But there's a number of strands to that. I mean, for the future going forwards, really, for me, we are that sort of full service law firm. That's what we pride ourselves on being. So we focus a lot, and rightly so, I think, because that's showing now in our retail side. And of course, retail is going through a very difficult transitional time. And so whilst people tend to think of retail in terms of shops and the high street, which of course plays a part, and there's some big redevelopment projects to go on there, it's also, and we see it, a considerable boom in terms of the demand for warehousing. And that's obviously going to be a big focus and where we're at the moment. Likewise, on our corporate side, we need to have that offering there. We have one of the strongest regional teams in the country. Again, work coming in through there. And then what flows from supporting on that is our banking side, our litigation side, all of that sort of falls into play. And that's where we'll be focusing our investments. But the key thing, absolute key thing, to go back to it and sound like a broken record, is we've got to look after our people. We've got to look after that mental health and well-being side. We've got to make sure that the new way of working is there. I firmly believe we do need to come into the office and to get that cohesion and that glue, because that's where the weaknesses will be if we don't maintain that inclusion. People don't learn the trade, and we don't get to where we want to be with our strategy going forwards.
I know for a lot of companies have continued to recruit during this time, and so there are many people who have never worked with those teams, which must be particularly difficult, mustn't it? I'm just trying to imagine that for myself. You're joining a firm and trying to understand the whole ethos, but if you haven't actually had a coffee and chatted with people around the water cooler, it just isn't there, is it?
No, it isn't, which is coming back to that central theme around comms, isn't it? I can think of a number of individuals, from junior members of staff right through to partners who have joined us, but actually haven't been into any of the office or got to network in a way that we would all do if we'd done that. So what has been, has assisted us, of course, is the social media platforms and the Zoom or the Teams and all these parts, but there is no substitute for getting to know. As we're coming out of that, we have a plan through our smart working policy. We're running now various sort of meetings and seminars and webinars just to sort of reacquaint people back into the sort of workplace and to explain how we're going forwards. But absolutely, I agree with you on that. It's been very difficult, especially for the trainees. I think, the new people coming into the business, all those youngsters coming in that haven't had the opportunity to get to know people in a way that we all took for granted pre-pandemic.
Yeah, you do wonder how that will play out, don't you? It will be
We do, and it's down to us to make sure they feel included.
Definitely. So, do you see that there were many positives really that have come out of the pandemic? I mean, we've talked about how we're going to have this sort of hybrid way of working, and perhaps we have gained more of an insight into sort of well-being and mental health. But are there any other that you can see?
Yeah, I can. I think looking at it from a sort of macro level, yes, we have gone into the worst sort of recession since the Great Frost Recession 250 years or wherever it was ago. But this this recession is different, or has been different. We're not in recession as such now, because when the 2008 one struck, that was all about the liquidity in the markets drying up. This one, we've got pent up demand, and we're seeing that pent up demand coming now. We have cash-rich businesses wishing to invest, and so we're in a very different situation. That, I think, is a positive in the sense that we, like many other businesses now, are seeing a sharp sort of curve upwards as the work's coming back on. We expect by the end of our current financial year to be back in place, if not ahead of where we were before the pandemic struck. That's confidence inspiring. It's good because it means we can invest and we can bring more people in, we can look after people. Secondly, I think it's accelerated change in the sense of how the workplace looks physically in terms of and getting the engagement there. And that's enabled us to accelerate plans for ourselves in that respect. Thirdly, IT, it always was important. We know it's even more important now, and we've rolled out different hardware and different software systems to accommodate that. So we've got IT, as we always did, very much at the fore of what we've done. Fourthly, as it happens, we've already started to review our strategy, and the pandemic has accelerated that in terms of the opportunities we can look at, both from a geographical aspect. Do we need to, worry about the fact that we want to go and hire somebody or a team or something somewhere we wouldn't normally set up? We don't need to worry about that sort of premises structure now, as long as we have the sort of soft structures around them. And I think fourthly and above all else, it enables people to work their own time and to get their work-life balance as they would see it. And that has brought with it an absolute belief in trust that we can do that, and I believe we can. So a lot of positives coming out of it as well.
And as you look ahead to the remainder of this year, are there certain things that you're looking forward to for the business? And on a personal note as well, is there anything that you're looking forward to particularly?
I think above all else, I'm looking forward to seeing the sort of lifeblood of the business coming back into, be able to come into the various offices and see people I haven't seen for a long time, and to sort of start to encourage that. That would be a good positive. And it's not just me thinking that. I know that we all think that way. Some while ago, people have thought it must be manna from heaven working from home. That's quickly changed, and you and I both know that too. So that's a real positive. The opportunities that are out there is a positive, because there is so much more opportunity out there, and some of that we've taken already. Equally, there are challenges, but we all have a challenge. But beyond that, I think it's a good picture, and we feel upbeat about that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mike. It's been a fascinating insight into how it's been for you, and that positive outlook as well.
Well, thank you as well, Kate. I've enjoyed being with you, and thank you again for inviting me.